Okay, so you're trying to right, trying to figure out this whole life insurance thing.
It's a smart move, but
It's a lot.
it is. Especially like whole life, term life, cash value.
Yeah.
It's enough to make anyone's head spin. Don't worry, we're going to break it all down.
We're going to make it crystal clear today. We are diving deep into an article. It's all about the difference between whole life and term life insurance. And we're going to really understand what they are and why they even matter to you.
Yeah, we're going way beyond just the basics. You probably already know that life insurance is about protecting your family, if something happens.
Yeah.
But what are you actually signing up for?
Right. What are the hidden benefits? Or are there any downsides?
Exactly.
That's what we're going to figure out.
So think of it this way. Your financial life, it's a journey. Term life insurance, it's like renting a car for part of that trip. Yeah. It's there to cover you for a set amount of time, and it's affordable.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I like that visual, by the way. Okay, so term life is like renting a car?
Yeah.
Is whole life more like owning a home then?
Exactly. You got it. It's yours.
Yeah.
It's about building something that's going to last. With whole life, you're paying for that lifelong coverage, but you're also building something called cash value, and that grows over time.
Wait, so it's like a savings account, but the IRS can't touch it.
Well, you only pay taxes on it when you decide to use the money.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, but I feel like there's got to be a catch, right?
Yeah.
The article mentioned something about higher premiums for whole life.
Yeah, that's true. Whole life, it's going to come with higher premiums than term life because you are getting more than just that death benefit. You're investing some of that money to build that cash value.
Okay. So it's like a 2-for-1 deal almost.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And I'm starting to see why people like this. But okay, let's back up for a second.
Yeah, let's
break down each of these options in more detail.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Let's start with term life insurance. That's that renting a car option. This is about keeping things simple, keeping things affordable, especially if you're, in your 20s or 30s. You could be paying like $20 to $60 a month.
That's less than some people's coffee habit.
It's true. It's true. And it's often why it's the go-to for, younger adults who are just starting to build their financial lives.
It's like that safety net you need when you're still figuring things out, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're paying off those student loans, maybe saving for a house. It's there just in case something happens. And here's something many people don't realize about term life. Some policies come with something called a conversion option.
Ooh.
It's like having a built-in upgrade path.
Okay, tell me more about this upgrade path, because that sounds interesting.
So let's say you start with that term life policy.
Okay.
But life changes, right? You paid off some debt, maybe your income's gone up, or you're thinking more long-term. With a conversion option, you can actually switch that term policy into a whole life policy.
Without having to, start all over.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's all about having choices, right?
That's smart. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But are there downsides to term life?
Yeah, there are definitely a few things to keep in mind.
Okay.
The main one, once that term ends, your coverage, it ends too.
Oh.
So if you outlive your policy, you don't get anything back.
Oh, so you're not building up any cash value like you would with whole life. It's purely just like that death benefit.
Exactly. And that brings us to the other side of things. Whole life insurance. It's like building that financial house we were talking about. It's yours for life as long as you're paying those premiums. But here's where it gets really interesting. Remember we talked about a whole life being kind of like an investment?
Yeah, the whole cash value thing. I'll be honest, that part's always been a little fuzzy for me.
Oh, okay. Well, think of it this way. When you pay your premium, a chunk of that goes to the death benefit, like the actual insurance part. But another chunk, it's like you're tucking it away into a special savings account that's attached to your policy.
So I'm picturing this secret account now, but it's not like, I don't know, I'm getting a check in the mail every month.
Not exactly. But here's the thing, okay? That cash value, it grows tax deferred. So you only pay taxes on those gains when you actually take the money out.
Wait, did you say tax deferred? So the IRS isn't going to come knocking every April?
They are not. It's like giving your money a little boost to grow even faster.
That's amazing.
And here's another perk, okay? You can actually use that cash value while you're still alive. So let's say you need, I don't know, help with the down payment on a house, or maybe you have some surprise medical bills. You might actually be able to tap into that without, raiding your emergency fund.
Okay, that's huge. It's like having a secret stash of money just in case, like a rainy day fund.
Right.
But I do remember the article mentioning something about withdrawals affecting the death benefit, right?
Right. So it's like this. When you borrow or withdraw from your policy, you're basically shrinking that death benefit a bit.
So there's a trade-off there, for
Yeah.
sure. I guess it's all about, like, finding that right balance.
Exactly.
Like having enough to protect your family, but also being able to access it if you really need it.
And that's where, talking to a financial advisor can be really helpful.
Right.
They can help you crunch those numbers, look at different situations, figure out the best plan.
Because everyone's different. There's no one right answer. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you're, like, thinking, okay, term life is probably the way to go, maybe.
Okay.
What are some things that you really have to remember?
So term life, it's all about keeping it simple. You get that death benefit for a set time, 10, 20, 30 years, usually.
Okay.
It's really good if you need that safety net for a specific time in your life.
Yeah, like when you're paying off a mortgage or you've got little kids running around.
Exactly. And don't forget about those conversion options. Then.
Yeah, like having that escape hatch if you needed to change things up later on.
Right. But here's the thing about term life. The premiums are usually way lower, especially when you're young and healthy.
Yeah.
But those premiums, they're based on your age and your health when you first sign up.
Okay, so does that mean if you want to renew it later, the price goes up?
Most likely, yeah. Because you're older.
Ah, so it's like that gym membership that's super cheap at first, and then suddenly
Okay.
you're hit with this, like, huge bill.
And that's why it's really important to think long term. Figure out if converting to whole life, does that make more sense later on?
Okay. This is all making a lot more sense now. But before we wrap up this whole term versus whole life debate, I think it would be helpful to talk about, like, who these options are actually good for.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Knowing the what is one thing, but knowing the who is where it really clicks, right?
exactly. So let's talk life stages. Okay, so who are these different life insurance types for? Who's out there saying, like, term life, that's my jam, and who's all about whole life?
All right, so picture this. Someone just starting their career, right? Maybe they're fresh out of college. They finally landed that dream job.
Right.
Term life is like their perfect sidekick in those early years.
Because it's the easiest on the wallet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're probably juggling student loan payments, maybe trying to furnish their first apartment. Every dollar matters.
Yeah.
And they've got, specific things they want to cover just in case.
Okay.
Let's say they want to make sure, their partner isn't stuck with this massive mortgage payment.
Right.
A 20-year term policy. That could be exactly what they need.
It's like saying, hey, I'm being responsible, but I'm also not, rolling in it.
Yeah.
Term life gives you that peace of mind without, like, breaking the bank. Okay, so we've got those early career folks covered. What about when you hit the young family phase of life? Does that change things?
It definitely does, but term life can still be a really good fit.
Okay.
Because now you're not just protecting yourself.
Right. You got little humans.
Exactly. You got to make sure they're taken care of no matter what.
So, like, even if something happens, there's money for their education.
Exactly.
Things like that.
And those conversion options, they start to look even better. You could start with term, knowing that, hey, you can always switch to whole life later on if you need to.
Like that, it grows with you.
Yeah.
Which is smart. Okay, so we've got the early career folks, the young families. What about people whose kids are, like, grown and out of the house? Empty nesters. Is that when whole life starts to make more sense?
It often does. People in this stage of life, they usually have a bit more money to work with. Kids are out of college, maybe they've paid off the house, and suddenly, they're thinking more long term.
And that's where that whole cash value thing starts to sound really appealing.
It's like, hey, retirement's just around the corner.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to build some extra security.
Yeah.
It becomes less about, replacing your income if something happens and more about building wealth that you can actually use later on.
That's like another investment almost.
Exactly. Think of it like stocks or bonds, but with, some extra perks when it comes to taxes.
Right. And the article even mentioned using it for, like, estate planning, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah. You can actually name, your beneficiaries to get that death benefit, making sure they're taken care of even after, you're gone.
Okay, there's way more to life insurance than I realized. We've covered a lot today. Term life, whole life, how they fit into your life. Any last bits of wisdom for our listeners who are, navigating this whole world of insurance?
Knowledge is power. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Do your research. Find a policy that really works for you.
And you don't have to do it all by yourself. Talk to a financial advisor. They can help you figure it out.
Absolutely.
And on that note, we'll wrap up our deep dive into life insurance. Until next time, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next one.